Hi, my name is Mason Osser, and I did my DDDM project on statistics relating to the world of soccer. More specifically, what I actually did to get my sample was I messaged a very popular soccer page on Instagram to quantify. They have over 190,000 followers, and a lot of the times they run polls on their account so that people can respond to these certain polls. So what I thought that I would do was I could message the guy who runs the account and ask him to run 3 polls for me. And from the results of these polls, number 1, I could get a percentage of the respondents who answered to certain questions. And number 2, I could actually get 30 random samples of individual people who responded to the samples. And from there, I could run different tests to try and prove if there is a correlation between the 3 questions that I asked. So the first question I asked was, would you buy merchandise from a specific club? The second question I asked was, which country's league did you watch most closely? And these countries, I chose England, which is the most popular league, Italy, Spain, and then I chose an other category because there are leagues in almost every country in the world at this point. The last question I asked was, what age group do you belong in? And I know that this is social media, so the age group will be fairly young, so I based my questions around, I based the categories around that knowledge. So the age group was 10 to 18, 19 to 27, 28 to 35, and then 35 plus. And I took the results of these questions, these percentages, and then the guy who runs the account scrolled down and screenshotted a random section of people, 30 people, and then it had the results on the side. So I put these results into Excel, and I managed to make a table with these results. Now I know that the way I formatted my data, they all turned out to be categorical data. So from this, the only tests that, or not the only test, but the test that I felt would most closely be able to identify if there was a correlation between any of the 3 questions that I asked was a chi-square test of independence. My null hypothesis was there is no correlation between your age group and whether or not you would buy club merchandise. What I also did was I ran another chi-squared test, but instead of age group, I ran preferred country against whether or not you would buy merchandise. So I ran 2 chi-squared tests. If the p-value was over 0.05, we would reject the null and go to the alternative hypothesis. And if it was under, we would accept the null hypothesis. So I ran the tests in Excel, getting first observed values, expected values, and then in order to perform the chi-squared test, you would have to do observed minus expected squared and then divided by the expected. So you can see the results of the observed graph right here, and then the expected graph right here. This is in relation to favorite country. And then right here, you can see the observed minus expected squared divided by the e, those results. And then from those results, we could get a chi-squared value. In the first one, it was 1.69. And then for degrees of freedom, you would take, and the degrees of freedom that I got was 3. And then from all these calculations, I got a value of 0.63 p-value, and then I did the same thing for the bottom, observed age, expected age group, and then the p-value was 0.77. So both values were above 0.05, which means that we would accept the alternative hypothesis and reject the null. I also ran percentages Of the polls, probability of I would buy merchandise and country, probability of I would buy merchandise and age group, and I ran those percentages as well, and that could be also used to make a decision whether if you were a company and making a decision of where you would invest your money if you want to sponsor, or what age group you would want to target in targeted ads, or what country you would want to target, etc. So all this data, I concluded that you would most likely, the most cost-effective option would be to invest in the other category to diversify brand exposure, and also I would target the age groups of 19 and 27, and I would do this because through the chi-square tests, it is proven that there is a correlation between if you would buy merchandise and your favorite country, and there is a correlation between if you would buy merchandise and your age group. Thank you.